Alright, people. Midweek report time. So, a lot to get into, a lot to talk about, but we have to start with something that's come out over the last, basically today. Now, as many of you will know, Ryan Garcia tested positive for Ostarine, I believe it was, after his fight against Devin Haney. Now, he proclaimed his innocence at the start, yada, 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 as they always do. It then went that they needed to check the B sample, which they did, and that showed traces of Ostarine as well. Ryan Garcia is kind of, I don't want to say he kind of admitted guilt necessarily, but basically, I don't want to necessarily say it like that, but it kind of sounded like, it was like, oh crap, I'm done. And in that sense of like, oh crap, I can't really get around this. So it's gone to the New York State Athletic Commission. I think that's the commission anyway. There's a meeting imminent with them, and might have already happened, might have already taken place at the time of recording this, but they are going to decide what happens next. And Ryan Garcia came out today and said, I'm officially retired. Alright, so Ryan Garcia claiming anyway to be retired from boxing. Now, I believe that this is him preempting maybe worst case scenario. You may remember Tyson Fury several times. I know it was at least once, but he did it a few times in his career. But during the time when he was under investigation by UCAD, this was before they backdated the ban or anything like that. This is when it was still going through the kind of necessary kind of, what would you call it, systems or whatever you want to call it, or findings. He basically retired and said he would come back this fight or this, that sort of way, right? So it could be Ryan Garcia trying to preempt the ban and just saying, well, I wasn't banned, I was retired and I came out of retirement and stuff like that. The rumor mill, and it is a rumor, the rumor mill I'm hearing is that the fight against Devin Haney, it's either going to be one of two things. It's either going to be overturned to a no contest, which I want to say that is the correct thing to do. But it seems kind of, would they actually go and do it? That's the question. The other thing I'm hearing is they actually could overrule it to a DQ in Devin Haney's favour. So not only would his O return, he would actually also get a win over Ryan Garcia. Now, they have done that with fights in the past. Not in New York necessarily. I think actually this was in Canada. Was when Badu Jack fought Lucian Butte. You may remember that fight. And Badu Jack won that fight pretty clearly, but on the scorecards they scored a draw. Now, Lucian Butte, it might have actually even been Ostarine he tested positive for. It might actually have been that. I'm pretty sure that was in Canada anyway, that fight. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it might have very well have been in Canada. And basically, cut long story short, they overruled it to a DQ win for Badu Jack. So what was a draw then became a win. So there is the possibility that could happen. Let's wait and see. I'd say we'd have an announcement or certainly a result from the New York State Athletic Commission probably at some point, maybe tonight, maybe early tomorrow morning, depending on where you are in the world, of course. So that is the situation with Ryan Garcia. He's saying he's quote unquote retired, and Ryan has basically been having a go with Devin Haney as well over the last couple of days, and we'll talk about this now very briefly as well. Devin Haney is not best pleased with Eddie Hearn because Devin Haney, basically his fight, his WBC mandatory against Sandor Martin, went to a purse bid. As we all know, with a purse bid, anyone can bid. Bob Arum with Top Rank went and bid 2.4 million, and they were the highest bidder because, well, there was no other bidders for the fight. And Devin Haney said he should have bid himself. He wasn't best pleased. He said, wow, nasty work by Matchroom. And Eddie Hearn came out and basically addressed this, and he said, and I quote here, "We don't have a contract with Devin. It's not an appealing fight. Wasn't a fight that the zone were motivated by or one that had any value. Devin is a free agent and has his own promotion." And I've already talked about this in a separate video, so I'm not going to labour the point, but I can kind of see where Eddie Hearn is coming from with that. Like I said, Eddie Hearn is a businessman. The zone are in the business of making money, as our Matchroom. And if Devin Haney is working with Eddie Hearn on a fight-by-fight basis and they don't want to work with him for this particular fight, they might want to work with him for another fight down the line. I know he's been mentioning Liam Parrow, who obviously is a Matchroom fighter. I don't even know if Sandor Martin has a major promoter in the US. I don't know. I don't think he's a top-ranked fighter. I could be wrong on that, and someone want to correct me. But I wasn't under the impression that Sandor Martin really had any like major promoter. He might have a promoter in his native Spain or somewhere like that, but I mean a heavy hitter. I didn't think he did. He's a good fighter, Sandor Martin. Don't get me wrong, he is. But yeah, I didn't think he had a major one in the UK, or sorry, in the US or worldwide. So Eddie Hearn basically saying that he doesn't see value in it, neither did the Zone. And as I said, I can't really blame them. It's not good. It's not an appealing fight. Devin Haney, like a lot of fighters nowadays, seem to be thinking that they deserve, I should say, not even need that, they deserve these big, massive paydays and, crazy money for fights that really are not, like, to say they're not even pay-per-view worthy. I mean, they're not really great cards in general. They are the kind of fights you would see on a standard Saturday fight night in the UK, or a standard, if they were still doing boxing, a standard HBO, or maybe even a HBO boxing after dark. Remember that back in the day? Those types of fights. And the money that these fighters are looking for, and the money that some of these fighters are thinking that they should be getting, you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, if you're a promoter, you're a network, and you're thinking, like, we're paying them crazy amounts of money for fights that won't even make a fraction of that in return. So we're taking hits on the show, and we've seen it with a lot of fighters over the last couple of years. You've seen fighters saying they want this amount of money and this, and you're like, what? The promoter's never gonna pay you that amount of money. Ryan Garcia's been guilty of it as well. Remember him back in the day throwing strops a couple of years ago because he was like, oh, that, I think it was 200 grand or something. He was saying it's not enough money, and you're like, at the time Ryan Garcia was getting the name, but he hadn't even fought Luke Campbell at the time, and you were like, what the hell? So yeah, you see that a lot. And again, I say, with pros like Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, it is still a business at the end of the day. They still need to make money, and Bob Arum is one of those guys. Remember with Terence Crawford, he said the amount of properties he could have bought with the money he lost on Terence Crawford. I wonder, does he regret saying that now? Well, Terence Crawford, should he win against Majimov, may very well, doesn't necessarily win it, but he may very well be fighting Canelo Alvarez. Mario Barros, speaking of Terence Crawford, has now been made full WBC champion now that Terence Crawford has been made champion in recess. So Mario Barros, he may be, I say maybe, one of the kind of champions at 147 pounds that a few fighters look at and think, I'll have that fight. You might see guys at 140 pounds have a look at Mario Barros and think, oh, now, don't quite mind that fight now. Don't quite mind that fight. So he is now WBC champion at 147 pounds. I would imagine that Terence Crawford will never fight at that weight again. Bob Arum has said that he is open to making Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney next for Lopez's WBO world title. If Devin Haney opts to vacate instead of fighting Sandor Martin, I just want to point that out actually. Yes, correct. Devin Haney, obviously, Bob Arum has won the purse bid, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Devin Haney has to actually go through with the fight. If he doesn't go through with it, he'll obviously be stripped, you would imagine, but it's the WBC. It's the WBC, they will just make things up as they go along. But let's just say, for argument's sake, he was stripped. Well, that would mean that he could technically fight Teofimo Lopez. Would Devin Haney do that, though? Not that he'd be afraid of Teofimo Lopez, no. And in fact, I'd probably make Devin Haney favourite against Lopez. But would he be willing to go onto another promoter's network with, I know he has his own promotional company, but no other backer in this shape of, say, Eddie Hearn or someone like that, to fight on Top Rank? Would he do that? That is an interesting question. Eddie Hearn has said that he would be open to making Liam Paro versus Devin Haney for Liam Paro's IBF 140-pound title in Australia if Haney opts to vacate instead of fighting Sandor Martin. But Devin Haney has already been to Australia twice, and his fortunes over there are actually quite good. Him against Liam Paro. Liam Paro is a good fighter. I don't think, could prove me wrong, but I don't necessarily see him as being on the level of a Haney, Garcia, Lopez. He's a very good fighter, though, is Liam Paro, so that will be an interesting fight. Eddie Hearn has also stated that they are in the final negotiations for Anthony Joshua's next fight, on September the 21st at Wembley Stadium. The priority still being Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight world title if Alexander Usyk either gets stripped, which seems unlikely now, or vacates. But why would he vacate? He's saying stripped or vacates, right? I say it's unlikely he gets stripped because obviously it was mainly the mandatory was all around Hrgovic. Dubois now beaten Hrgovic. Does that not reset the mandatory? If it does, then that should give Usyk a little bit more time and a little bit more power to say, well, hang on a minute, the mandatory was set for Hrgovic, but Hrgovic lost, now it's Dubois. What happens there? Does it reset? Does it get pushed like it can? Does it get kicked down the road? And in terms of vacate, well, why would he vacate? You know, I mean, if there's no if he's contractually obliged to fight Tyson Fury, and there's no mandatory hanging over him that could be saying, well, you want to fight for Undisputed again and defend your Undisputed title, well, you got to fight this guy. If you don't want to fight him, if you want to fight Tyson Fury, if you have to, bin that title. As far as I know, there's not that hanging over him, so there's no reason for him to vacate. So I think the vacating is kind of maybe wishful thinking from Eddie Hearn on his part. I would imagine that out of the three names, Parker, Zhang, Dubois, I've said this once, I'll say it again, Dubois is the biggest name, or it's certainly the biggest fight. Probably would be the biggest name, to be honest with you, with the casual audience. They were really hoping, the Saudis, for Deontay Wilder, because with Deontay Wilder, it probably wouldn't have mattered if there was a title or not on the line. People would have still wanted to watch that fight. Deontay Wilder didn't get through Zhilei Zhang, so this fight doesn't happen. In theory, you would say that if they were really looking at the winner of, if they were looking at Wilder against Zhang, they should put Zhilei Zhang in there. And that's an interesting fight in its own right. It's a really interesting fight. But would that really sell out Wembley? Would that really, it'll put butts in seats, but would it put the kind of butts, the numbers that people want? I don't know. Dubois probably would, but the big emphasis is on, will it be for a world title? But at the end of the day, if it's Parker, if you've got a list of options, if it's Parker, it's not going to be for a world title. If it's Zhang, it's not going to be for a world title. So why should it matter if it's Dubois for a world title? If you think about it like that, what realistically, why should it matter? And as I said with the Dubois fight, I like the fight. I think it'll be a cracker. I think it'll be an absolute cracker of a fight. The rumor mill I'm hearing is the press conference is set to be next week, Wednesday. They always have it in London. I won't be attending it myself. I won't be able to get over for that, but it's going to be interesting to see and hear the rumours about who's going to be on the undercard, who's going to be doing what. The WBO have now ordered Navarrete to defend his WBO 130-pound world title in a rematch against Oscar Valdez next. Parties have 20 days to agree a deal and then purse bids. I think they're both with Top Rank, so there shouldn't be a particularly big issue there. It was a good fight first time around, and Navarrete, it's a way too far, 135 pounds. It's a way too far for him. For those who care, I can't imagine many of you do, but just so you know, Jake Paul will face Mike Perry in a cruiserweight clash on July the 20th in Florida before his fight with Mike Tyson. And if you're wondering who Mike Perry is, well, you and me both. Let's have a look-see and see who the hell he is. Mike Perry, boxer. He's not a mixed martial art guy, is he? No. Is he? Because it's saying mixed martial arts. Oh God, it is this guy. So this Mike Perry guy, his record, by the way, he's got a brilliant record of 0-1, and that one loss was by knockout. He's called Platinum. Right, Platinum, eh? Lost to Kenneth McNeil. It's kind of a very Scottish name, Kenneth McNeil as well. I wonder, was he Scottish actually? No, definitely not. His record, 13-5, knocked him out in 4 rounds. Who has Kenneth McNeil ever fought? He's fought Atlantis Fox, lost to him. It's really the only kind of name I recognise on his record. So yeah, could be a real tough night's work in there for Jake Paul. Real tough night's work against Mike Perry. Let's see how that goes, huh? So William Skull's promoter, Agon Sports, although they've agreed a deal with Canelo's reps, the fight may not happen next. Skull has shared a post on social media suggesting that agreement has been made. An agreement has been made, in fact, be a step-aside deal. So apparently he's not going to be fighting Canelo. It's likely that it's going to be a step-aside deal. Canelo Alvarez, I would assume, if he does fight in September, or if he does look to face the Terence Crawford or someone like that, he'll be looking to do it as undisputed. Which, okay, fair enough. But in terms of mandatories that are also due, see where I'm going with this. Dave Benavidez' team have made it clear that their priority remains to fight Canelo Alvarez, and that apparently he is looking to be back in the ring by September, and may very well be looking to go down to 168 pounds, go back down there. He plans on sticking around. He also apparently plans on being keeping his mandatory spot. So I think I seen that there. Where is it? I seen the actual tweet about it, which of course, wouldn't you know, the one time you do look for it, you can't ever flip and find it. But I have seen that he is looking to go back down to 168. He remains WBC mandatory. So there you go, Canelo Alvarez, and it's on the WBC to call it. They need to call it. I want to see Canelo versus Benavidez. I really do. So it's up to the WBC now to call it, because Canelo's not just going to give him a voluntary. He's not going to do it. He needs to be put in a situation where it's like, this is your mandatory, you got to fight, end of. If you don't want the responsibility of being champion, give that title away, see you later, there you go. And I think that's the best thing. But they won't do it. It's the WBC. Naoya Inoue is planning to fight TJ Haney on September the 9th in Japan rather than MJ Akhmadaliev, and then fight Sam Goodman in December. That's a lot of fights in 1 year for, like, in the calendar year. December, I guess it was Boxing Day, so with the very end of December, May, September, December. That's 4 fights within the space of a year. It's not bad going for someone like Inoue. Anyway, TJ Haney's had a couple of wins over in Japan. A bit upset wins too. But look, I remember him against Conlon. And I see Michael Conlon's been mentioning Nicky Ball. And yeah, Michael Conlon seems in a good place right now. He's looking at new trainers, looking at Grant Smith. I seen him in a Boxing News interview today ahead of the Felix Cash Tyler Denny fight, which again I'm kind of, that fight on Saturday is a bit gone under the radar. And in terms of what Matchroom have coming up over the next few weeks, the next 2 weeks look pretty good, but this one's kind of it's kind of that. But I seen him at that, and he was mentioning Nick Ball. I don't think that could go very well for Mick Conlon. In terms of TJ Haney, look, I thought he's looked poor, really poor over the last little while. Yes, he's got some wins over in Japan, but goddamn, he would not be doing too well over Naoya Inoue. I wouldn't give him a sniff of a prayer over Naoya Inoue, to be honest with you. So there is that. Tank Davis and Lomachenko talks are to resume next week, which is, next week coming, I should say. There was a potential fight between the two in November or December. Bob Arum has stated, which I really like. I think that fight is going to be absolutely epic, but it is past its sell-by date by about 6-7 years. But we get to see it anyway, I suppose. Let's have a quick look-see on boxing scene before we finish up. Team Haney respond as Ryan Garcia announces official retirement in New York State Athletic Commission's, in the face of New York State Athletic Commission's ruling on the drug test. Yeah. Let's see what they rule. What else do we have here? Shane Mosley Jr. hopes Danny Jacobs' fight can springboard him to title fights. Yeah, Shane Mosley Jr. has never been amazing, Shane Mosley Jr., to be honest with you. So him against Danny Jacobs, a peak Danny Jacobs would probably knock Shane Mosley Jr. out. But we really don't have a peak Shane Mosley Jr. now. There is a lot of talk about this bid. The WBO set $300,000 minimum bid for Buatsi versus Hutchinson purse bids. That may very well just end up happening on the undercard of Joshua versus whoever. May end up happening. I also seen actually that I seen Joe Stutter do a video on it, and I've already done it. I actually pre-recorded a video on it already for tomorrow, so I'm not going to labour the point too much in this video on it. But I also seen Everton Boxing report on it as well, that Lawrence Okoli is apparently now a free agent, and his services are open to other promoters, which I can't imagine many are going to be rushing for the contract of Lawrence Okoli. And with Joshua Buatsi, he followed suit with Okoli. Really, he did it in a much nicer way than Okoli did with regard to leaving Matchroom. But it's not really been working too well over there at Sky. Richard Riakporhe, eyes up, move to heavyweight. I don't see that going particularly well for Richard Riakporhe, to be fair. When you look at these cruiserweights, like Alexander Usyk, who really do have success, and David Haye to a lesser extent, they tend to focus on their attribute, which is speed and coordination. If you're a cruiserweight and you don't already have speed and coordination, you're going to struggle a bit at heavyweight, I would imagine. And I don't... When I saw him in there against Bill Smith, it was like, oh, one fighter in Bill and Smith has improved a lot since their first fight, and although Riakporhe had been winning and been knocking guys out, you're like, but he hadn't improved. He really hadn't improved. So there was that. What else is there? There's not actually, to be honest with you, there's not a great deal of boxing news going around. So this could be a short midweek report. This could be a pretty damn short midweek report. I just see, is there anything else? Munguia could return against Eric Bazania in September. I love watching Jaime Munguia, so I'm always happy to watch him because he's just so flipping entertaining. Yeah, not a great deal much else now, I have to say. Not a great deal much else. Let's have a quick little look-see. You know, Boxing X, I should say, is very good. It's X now. Let's have a look and see, is there any more? Because there really isn't a lot of news there. Let's have a quick look-see and see if we can find any other news. No, WBO order Navarrete to face Valdez. Talked about that already. Yeah, there's not a great deal. Not a great deal. I think we'll call it there. Yeah, I think we're going to call it there for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. I do think we are going to get some word and some more kind of, a little few leaks coming through there on the Joshua versus question mark. I would say Dubois, but you don't know. Undercard and what we can expect. We're not going to get a Inoue, unfortunately, but from what I'm hearing, we may get a very good undercard nevertheless. So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Peace.